Happy Monday, everybody, and welcome to another week of racing here at Woodbine Mohawk Park. I'm John Rallis here alongside my co-host, the Hall of Famer, Randy Waples. And Randy, nice to be back with you, working alongside you once again.
It's always great, I mean, to be able to kind of track you down. You're a pretty busy guy, man. You're all over the place. I'll tell you, I'd like to somehow or another get your frequent flyer points on my credit card.
You know what? Every time I look at it, I'm a little disappointed, though. Every time I look at the points, I feel like they're just going to skyrocket a little bit more. But I think I'm doing 3 racetracks within a week span.
Wow.
Which is pretty good. So getting a little bit of a tour, but nice opportunity to obviously visit some other racetracks as well. Like I know we're going to be hosting this year's Breeders' Crown, but I just got back from Scioto Downs, and they're going to be host to the Breeders' Crown next year. And I tell you what, I don't know if you've ever have you ever raced there before?
Never.
I tell you one thing, they did an excellent job. The hospitality is incredible. They actually built a new paddock, and it's great. So just in time for next year's Breeders' Crown, but action-packed racing, lots of people too. Like on a Saturday night, it was packed.
When I grew up there, Scioto Downs was really a track where a lot of the young horses got their early lessons. And one of the biggest guys that took his young horses there was a guy named Gene Regal.
Okay.
And he was, excuse me, he was like one of our Billy Houghton, Stanley Dancer types of trainer, like very, very, in all the Hall of Fames everywhere, multiple big races and stuff. But he based everything out of Scioto.
I think that's even where we saw By the Missile's debut, I believe. I believe his career debut was at Scioto Downs. And I believe I watched his first parimutuel start, and you should have seen where he came from, just way at the back. Just you see a horse come flying, if I recall correctly. And look at By the Missile, who I actually got to see race in person on Saturday night. And
he won.
He won in 40. I think he won in 48 and change. I picked against him, of course, trying to be a Mr. Smart Alec to pick some value. But and he just absolutely crushed. He looked super. And obviously, we know what he's capable of when he's on his A game.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I mean, he's shown us that before. He races at the very, very top level, and he can beat them consistently. Yeah. He gets on a roll. He can win week in and week out.
Yeah, and let's get on a roll here, though, Randy, because we've got a busy night. I tell you what, when you do 16 races for 3 nights in a row, 13 pack is absolutely nothing here this evening. But we're lucky. We've got great weather. I know that's not always the case when you and I work together as of late, but beautiful day outside. It's absolutely gorgeous, and we're in store for a good night of racing. I think as well. As you can see, Randy, sunny skies. Was a little getting a little cooler as the time gets a little bit later into the day. But just look at that. It's I'm not sure what kind of miles we're going to get tonight, but I'm sure if the weather holds up this weekend like it does tonight, I think we're in store for some fireworks, figuratively and literally as well.
The weather's starting to get nicer when Chad goes from the insulated Yeti to the non-insulated Yeti. He's just bringing it in straight now. He doesn't care about anything getting cold or anything because the weather's so nice.
That's the telltale. Chad he's like the Mr. Groundhog too, right? So it's always exciting to see what's in store for this weekend, and we've got a busy night here tonight as well. But I'll tell you one thing, Randy. I mean, the track is in good shape, but we've got a 13 pack, and I found this card to be awfully difficult. You could go so many different directions.
That's it.
It's why that I think replays for this night in particular is very, very important. It usually always is, but this night in particular, I do think that's it's something that we need to be really, really zone in on. And I know you've got a lot of replays that you've submitted tonight, and let's kickstart it right now because we've got some good ones in race number 1 as well.
Let's break these replays down, John.
Yep. All right, so we've got race 1 here. We've scratched down to a field of 9. It's too bad Wanna Be a Big Star is out. I feel like he was kind of trending into the right direction over his last few starts. I wanted to see what kind of effort he would put forth. But there's another one coming into tonight who's going to make his second start of 2025. And that's somebody that you want to focus on, and that's PL Aussie.
Yeah, I mean, I actually was out there just when Des Takur was warming this guy up for Kyle Fellows. He looks amazing. That's the big thing with him. He's 7 years old now, but just looks like he's as fresh as can be. Lots of very active out there. But yeah, let's take a look at this replay of PL Aussie. This is going to be his first start back. Now, I want you to pay real close attention to that last qualifier too. Yeah, he did finish second, but take a look at the one that beat him. That's Tell's on a roll. She's back to showing real good form. She was able to beat him, but I thought that James did everything right with this guy. Like right here, James still has go. Now, at this point, it looks like he is starting to feel this mile. He starts to back up a little bit, but not bad for your very first start back. I think that we're looking at big improvement off of this start and really only gets beat, maybe 3.5, 4 lengths tops. I say that, he can easily make up 5 lengths just with the one having a start under his belt.
And you know what we've seen from him in starts prior, like his patterns. He typically needs one start to get himself acclimated. I know it was a solid qualifier, finishing runner-up to Tulsa on a roll, but we've seen in the past he'll show up here second time off a layoff and just be super. So he's got an outside draw, but we know that he's likely going to be pointed forward. You have to figure it's going to be all systems go. I know right now he's currently sitting on the board at 5-1. Great value for a horse who's got a big shot and should be able to take a step forward this evening.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I say he goes forward too, because I mean, if you're going to go forward in your first start back down in a cheap class like this for him, why not go forward in your next start back? Now, because of the scratch of the one horse, he's going to move himself right down into that 7 hole. I mean, 6 and 7, they can fly out of there.
I know underneath you do have the 2-horse Uncle Shank. Currently, he's going to inherit the rail now. He's currently the 9-5 favorite. What do you make of a mile like that getting parked a long way? I know Trevor tried to handle him aggressively and remove to the lead, but you think he's going to be even fitter going into tonight off a mile like that, in a trip like that?
Yeah, he's a big, solid horse.
Yeah.
I find that big, solid horses like an Aussie, like an Uncle Shank, they need, to get a start or even maybe another start. You know me, sometimes I like to see them sent down the road, tired right out, and then the next time they're that much better. I think that both of these horses, Uncle Shank he stuck close to the fast fractions, got a little bit tired. He should be better. And PL Aussie stuck close to the fast fractions, got a little tired. He should be better too.
And I want your quick thoughts on even the horse to his inside, Lamborghini Lou. We know the capability that this guy has. Obviously conservatively handled over his last couple of tries. At some point, you have to expect a bit more of an aggressive approach. I know Tyler Borth is going to pick up the drive here in the opener. I think he's sitting on a really live drive.
What scared? I got him in for third. Where do you got him?
Yeah, I've got him in for third as well.
Okay, what scares me with him, John, is I can see him busting out of there, okay? I can see Uncle Shank coming out of there, and I can see Aussie coming out of there with them, just the way that I kind of see it. So Lamborghini Lou, he's going to have options, I think. He can either maybe push and try to get to the front and maybe score a 2-hole, or he can just do it and just dump right in behind, sit third and behind 2 potentially very, very good horses in Uncle Shank and PL Aussie that are going to get you to where you want to go. So I agree with Lamborghini Lou. I think he's going to be putting up a big effort, and I think that the last effort that he put out was a big step forward.
I want to get your quick thoughts too before we move on to the next replay. Those Stonebridge Helios going from barefoot to steel, is it now? And I tell you what, how big of a change is that in your opinion? Because we know that this guy's got ability. Unfortunately, it just hasn't come into fruition over his last few starts. What do you make of that change tonight?
I look at it more or less as lateral because, he didn't seem to, like the barefoot didn't seem to help him. And before the barefoot, he was obviously wearing shoes. I'm kind of waiting for the day, and I don't know if they've done this recently, but I'm kind of waiting for the day that he comes from whatever he's wearing to flip-flops.
Okay.
I'd like to see a set of floppers on this guy.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what kind of effort he puts forth this evening, but this is a pretty wide open race, wide open field to kick off the opener. I know Uncle Shank is the favorite, my top pick in that race, but I think you could go value shopping or you can go in many different directions here. We spoke about one McNair charge in this race right now briefly, and we're going to go on to another one here in race number 2. And tell you what thing, Randy, I labeled this guy a little bit of a spoiler. I labeled this guy as my boomer bust candidate, and that's the 4 Oiolo. You have to love that Doug McNair's back aboard, but what version are we going to get this evening?
That's the whole thing. I mean, but so far it seems like the big thing, the big key to Oiolo is somehow or another get Dougie on him. He seems to mind his manners good when Doug's down on him, but when anybody else drives him there, it just seems like he's even just looking to make that mistake. You know what I'm saying? So he's getting a shoeing change tonight. Greg's sending in a shoeing change. They're going to go from steel to aluminum up in front. That tells me 2 things. Number 1, tells me that they're probably going forward with him. You don't usually put a set of fast shoes on a horse if you're going the other way. The other thing too is he would not put a set of shoes on a set of aluminums on this horse if he thought that there was any kind of soundness issue. So I would take that out as the reason why he's making breaks. I think that sometimes it's just in his head that he does this. We've seen him wear hobbles before. We've seen him not wear hobbles before. I think the biggest thing that he's got going for him tonight is the guy sitting in the bike in behind him. I think that we should be be good to go. Middle of the gate for Osceola, shoeing change to a set of aluminum shoes, so that means he's going to be digging into that track a little bit better in case he was maybe slipping a little bit, you know. But McNair, Dougie getting back on this guy. Let's check this replay out on the last time that Dougie drove him. And this is the problem with him, John? You know, like he looks so good when Dougie's driving him, and he gets, you know, like even like 2 weeks ago, he picks up Chris Jr. There's really not too many better trotting drivers on our circuit than Chris Jr. And he made a break on him. But yet, you know, Douglas can just keep this guy a rocking. So,
let him
know,
just
what's
rattle.
your thoughts?
Yeah, he just let him rattle. I think that maybe he's a guy that you just have to handle conservatively, and maybe he just knows how to get around those turns. You know, Jody had him in a really good spot last week, and the moment he was going to let him trot the lane, he jumped it off. You know, he jumped off early for Greek. He jumped off for other drivers as well. I know last year, obviously, you see over at Yonkers, Jordan Stratton, and I believe, you know, he sits behind him, he runs. And I think that Billy Davis Jr. sits behind him, and he runs too. So when Doug's aboard, he just knows how to get around this guy. And I think you just got to handle him confidently, let him rattle. And I mean, I think that's why I labeled him boom or bust. It's either he's going to trot and win, in my opinion, or he's going to jump it off. It's either or, in my opinion.
Well, I'll say one thing. I agree, and I'll say one thing that you and I could also agree on too. You know, I would say that Osceola is really, truthfully, giving not very much up to Logan Park, Gaines, Hanover, and the rest of them. This guy's not far away from being them.
No.
Like I'm talking like maybe a half a length.
Yep, I agree. I agree.
He's a tenth of a second.
Yeah, I agree. Just needs to piece it together. But, you know, obviously when they do match up, the Logan Parks or the Osceolas, it's going to be a new pilot most likely, right?
Yeah.
So that's the thing. How's he going to get along with the new pilot? We haven't seen that as of late. So that's the biggest thing. See how other drivers get acclimated or get familiar with Osceola and see if they can maybe get along with him just as good. But, again, he's in a perfect spot here in this preferred two, and he draws well. We get the shoeing change, and it should be all systems go.
So we're agreement. The talent's there.
Yeah.
We just got to see the consistency.
Exactly. That's about it. So speaking of consistency, we're going to focus a horse in the next race, on our next replay in race number 4, who's displayed quite a bit of consistency, though, Randy. And that's the 2-horse Nazy. I know he's, you know, has trouble finding the winner's circle as of late, but I tell you what, a string of second and third place finishes over his last several starts. He's got a good draw to work with, and you know, he actually finished up pretty well in his last effort, and we're going to take a look at that as well.
Yeah, has he gone a bad start in his last 4 or 5 starts?
No.
He hasn't. You know, and yet he's still not able to get to the winners. And I'm not even 100% sure, you know, maybe is tonight. Like I got him up on top. I love this race for him. I mean, this is a few weeks in a row to me that he's had lots of go on the end of it, and Travis has put it in the right spot. But we're talking some killers in here, John. Penn Teller Hanover on the inside. I mean, wow, this one's a nice one. But the one that scares me the most, if he comes to play on the end of it, is this 4-horse, Spartan General.
Yep.
Try to hold him off on the end of it, huh? Well, here we go, John. Take a look at him here splitting horses.
Yeah, and a nice, really, really good effort there. You could see a nice runner-up effort there to Ghostly Casper, who figured in there, right? That was a horse that everybody pegged him as a top contender. You could see a nice replay to show just splitting through horses, lots of go on the end of it. That's exactly what we've seen the last few tries. You could even see finishing runner-up to Osceola. When we showed that Osceola replay, it was Nacy finishing up at the end of his mile. So this is a common theme for this guy, and we just have to. I'm not sure what the quote-unquote right trip is, because he's had good trips and he still just can't seem to get there, or there's somebody who's maybe a touch better than him.
I think that's what it is.
You know, so consistency is a big thing, obviously, a horse, but just tough for me to back him as a win candidate. But at some point, those trips and those efforts, you're going to get rewarded for it.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, and this is a deep bunch that he faces tonight, but it's no deeper than Ghostly Casper last week, and he finished second to him. You know what I mean? So like you said, he's right on that verge of appearing in the winner's circle.
And then you see him finish a solid second to Osceola, like we said. So, I mean, Osceola would be the heavy favorite in here. Meanwhile, he puts forth a strong runner-up effort in that contest. So, but this is a good group. You mentioned Penn Teller Hanover. Truthfully, I wanted to see a little bit more from him last time out, given the trip. You know, he kind of flattened out on the end of it. I will say, though, you know, Luke Bladebarn is razor hot right now. We've seen a nice weekend from him, obviously winning Dravinsky a limb as well last night with Calico Jack Hanover. A good weekend for him for some SBOA, you know, divisions. We'll touch on that later. But so maybe this guy's maybe a start at this level. Maybe that's going to bode well for him tonight. What do you think?
I agree on Penn Teller.
Yeah.
I agree with you, but where I think is, I just think that it was just a huge step up for him that first time. I mean, you know, he was beating up on on Fadeaway Hanover, Veracruz, horses like that. But last week he faces Ghostly Casper and Perfetto. Yeah. Two different ball games. And I think that he needed to start. The only thing that scares me a little bit tonight is the rail. Where is he going to get away? You know what I mean? So I'm going to put him in for a part of it, put him in for third. But I think next week, if he races good again tonight and draws somewhere in the middle, like a better position, I got a feeling I'm going to maybe take a chance with him.
I tell you one thing, I love this race from a betting standpoint. It's just a great race. You have Nacy on top. I went to Mars Hill, but I think that maybe 5 or 6 horses could get the job done in this field. You want to talk about another horse that's moving up as well. My friend Jose, he's been razor sharp, and he's being confidently handled in those efforts. So I know this is a step up. I actually slotted him in for second. I contemplated taking a shot, putting him on top. I know this is a tougher group, but I'll tell you one thing. If you're Billy Davis, you have a confident racehorse who's razor sharp. We've seen horses kind of move up the class ladder and get the job done. Who's to say he can't get a pocket trip and maybe pull off an upset here?
I've said it all a million times, John, there. I will support a horse on good form moving up. Not so big on supporting a horse with bad form moving down.
The biggest wild card for me, Mars Hill tonight. We know the talent is there. Outside drop, little flat. I know he showed. I shouldn't say flat. He trotted home in 26-3 last time. Just visually, it didn't look like it was that quick. But I expected a little bit more last week, given the field that he was in. Because I honestly think he's a quality racehorse.
I agree, and I think there's 2 wild cards in this race. I'll agree with you on Mars Hill, but I think this Willow Time also is starting to kind of round back into form. And if he rounds back into form, what are we dealing with here?
Exactly. We know he's got some ability when he can piece it together. All right, we're going to move on. We're going to stick to the trot here. We're going to move on to race number 6, and we've got more pop-up series action here, Randy. Non-winners of 20,000 are not averaging 1,700 per start in 2025. Morning line favorite, Market Banker, and tell you what, 2 consecutive good efforts from this guy. Not something that we've really seen with regularity from him throughout the course of his young career, but I thought that was a good effort last time out.
Agreed. Now, hear me out on this. So Crystal Baller is the way I'm going to go from the rail. I had him up on top last week, and maybe I overplayed it a little bit. Hadn't raced since April the 21st. Then was Indigo May the 5th. I had him up on top. He ended up with a real nice third. Made great gains on the end of it, okay? So I like the way that he raced. I'm going to go back to him. I think that he's sitting on a good effort, but he does have that tricky rail sometimes. Sometimes, they don't get along or get away exactly where you want them to get from the rail. Market Banker is the replay that we're going to show you. Now, I have him in for 4th because the biggest reason is, to me, is with Market Banker is I think that this is kind of, I'm not going to say it's a step up, but I think he's going to face some pretty quality horses in here. And the big thing is, though, is that, like you said, this is 2 weeks in a row that he has put together some big efforts. So let's take a look at this guy, because I don't think you're going to be looking at favorite status with Market Banker. I think you could get him at a bit of a price. Look at this point at Chris, he can start him up through here, but he's not going to do it. He's just kind of making sure that when he does ask him, he's going to zip forward. And at this point, now he starts to kind of ask him forward, and he keeps going. Look at right here. Wow. Hello. Good move on the end of it. That's 2 weeks in a row. Has the 3-hole to work with there. I'm not going to put him up on top, but I am going to use him as part of it. And I wanted to show you that replay because if anybody's looking for a horse to play spoiler, what about Market Banker?
Yeah, and I think this is a really good spot for him too in this pop-up series. I think this is a really good group that he fits in with. I know that for me, it's kind of buyer beware with this horse though a little bit. I did put him on top, but I remember the last time he took heavy support off a really, really strong effort and he disappointed the public. Sometimes that can happen. Likely going to maybe need a trip to work out in his favor, but we know he's got Trot on the end of it. So, again, we haven't seen 2 consecutive efforts like that throughout his young career. So, obviously, soundness a little bit of an issue throughout his young career. But hopefully this is kind of an indication that he's going to be able to piece it all together. And, maybe Chris is a little bit more confident with this guy tonight, given that he's had 2 good efforts, good draw to work with. And, hopefully he can pick off some horses late tonight.
I agree. And the biggest problem that you get sometimes with a Spartan General or a Market Banker is the fact that the Greek can get them to fire so hard that last quarter. Even when you think you got them beat, here he comes and he nails you. You know what I mean? So, I think you need to really take a real strong look at this 3-horse in here. Look at what he looks like on the track, and if he looks good to you out there, I'd be using him for part of it.
I know you didn't submit the replay on Crystal Baller because you and you do like him. You have him on top, but I tell you what, that's a replay you could have very well submitted because it was a good closing effort there, and he could be. We know that he fits in with this field when he's at his best.
True, but you know something, as good as Crystal Baller went, 28-4 on the end of it. Market Banker, 27-3,
and you know what? He held off a horse that looked like he should have got there for fourth. So, and Chris wasn't asking him much either. So, really good effort there. We're gonna move on to race number 7 here. Got another trot race here in a field of 8, but I like this. I think this is a pretty neat group here, Randy. And the morning line favorite, Fade Away Hanover. You're going to get a pilot switch tonight. You're going to get Doug McNair aboard. I'm intrigued to see what the rail horse, PL Rainbow Dash, will do. She's making her four-year-old debut. But there's another horse who's going to be, probably in a better spot here this evening. That's a horse that you like here in Grambling Hall.
Yeah, and Second Start Lasix. You know, I've said it before, John. I don't have many moves in the handicapping world, but Second Start Lasix, that's Randy's move. It's the only one I bring to the table, you know. So, yeah, let's take a look at this guy. I think that he's raced against good horses before. He took a mark of 54-1 last year as a 3-year-old. You know, he's got some great lineage. You know, his breeding is very, very good. Comes out of a very, very deep kind of a barn. Last year, 15 starts, 4 times a winner. I mean, that's like almost 40% or a little over 40%. Now, here, let's take a look at this guy. So this is May the 5th, First Start Lasix. I don't think there was very much done. You can see Louis down in the pocket with this guy. Now, this is where he starts to ask him to trot a little bit. I'm not saying that he busts through there, but he didn't exactly go backwards either. And this is the thing that they have to learn with Lasix, you know what I mean? That they're not going to get that sensation of the liquid coming into their lungs and stuff like that, you know what I mean? So I think that, you know, if they're raced very easy that first start on Lasix, which he did, very easy kind of a start. I think that they're going to respond even more the second start Lasix, middle of the gate, Louis Waugh back in the bike. I'm going to take a chance on him.
A lot of positives, like you said. Second time Lasix, I think a better group to his liking here. Post number 6, the winningest post, so a lot to his liking. Look at the horses who passed him. My Friend Jose and PL Robert G, 2 horses who are right on their game and pretty sharp. So likely needed that effort, like you said, on Lasix. He's got a good draw to work with. You have to figure he's going to be a factor, and most importantly, he's going to be put in play once again, and that always is a big, big factor here. You know,
I mean, you think, like, I mean, I know right on the end of it, it looked like he was losing a little bit of ground, but he come 28 flat.
Yep.
That's the best quarter that he's, you know, one of the best quarters that he's showing. So that's, again, why I think that the second start Lasix is going to make him even stronger.
I'm curious to see what PL Rainbow Dash is going to do tonight. I wanted to put her on top. I like the most recent qualifier. Not a big win candidate, though, and she's got the rail, so I kind of want to see one before I, go all in there.
The rail was the one that nullified me.
Yeah. All right, we're going to go to race number 11, and another group of 8, but, there's a few horses I'm interested in watching here, and ultimately I let the driver do the handicapping for me. Bob McClure booked off a horse that he won with last time out in Pac-Man Hanover in a good effort. He took reigning captain, who was also pretty good last time out.
Yeah, and the other thing is, too, is with Pac-Man Hanover, he picks against Sean Stacy. That's not usually a McClure move either, you know what I mean? And he's going to stay with Zach Carroll. I agree with you. I think that Bobby drove this guy for the very first time last week, and I think Bobby Bobby wants to go back for another ride, and I don't blame him. Not too often you see a horse make a 3-wide move here and then accelerate as soon as they hit the head of the lane. You know, Bobby asks him a little bit there, and he just moves right on forward in there. And this is, first start off of a qualifier. He wins in 53 last quarter and 26-3 like this. Yep. How can there not be improvement this start?
I would have to think so. I mean, Bobby wraps him up as he knows he's a winner there, and a really, really good response by the end of it from this guy. And I think you're right. I think he should only get better here in race in his second start back. And he beat a couple of these horses in this field last time out. So for me, I think he's clearly the one to beat in this spot. But I'm encouraged or enticed to see maybe what Pac-Man Hanover can do. I know he is stepping up a bit. And Southwind Judge, that was his first start of the year as well. So we'll see what kind of efforts they can put forth. But I'm with you, Randy. Reigning captain, I think he's going to double up here.
I agree. That's what scares me with the 4 and the 6, Pac-Man and Southwind Judge, is who they got as replacements. They're 2 scary drivers. Pac-Man picking up LPR and Southwind Judge picking up J-Mac.
Yeah, and that's, I'm interested to see what kind of trip as well that reigning captain is going to, pull off. Because what happens if those 2 horses get away first and second, the ones you touched on? Maybe there's a chance that Bobby's going to have to come first up, or maybe he cuts it. I don't know. I just do the handicapping. I don't try to forecast.
We were both really impressed, though.
We were. All right, we're going to go to race number 13, our final race here this evening. And this is a bit tricky. There's a horse on paper who feels like he probably should lay over them on class, and that's the morning line favorite, Kingston Panic. But, we need to see a little bit more as of late. What are your thoughts there?
Well, I've got him in for third. I agree with you. I think that, more or less I'm using him in for third just because of what he's done in the past, not really what he's doing now. Like I say, the form isn't exactly great. I know he's coming down in class, but it's not exactly, fantastic form. Now, all this might change tonight, or maybe it even might. I'm thinking it might take him a start, and then things will start to change. So I'll have to monitor that. We have a replay to show you, and I'm going to go with some little bit of class myself, and that's going to be the 2-horse Beach and Lindy is the way that I'm going to go in this race in here. I'm not going to use him as any of my plays tonight, but I think that this is going to be a nice race for him. So this is April the 28th, 2 down. Not his last start. He moved up into that non-winners of 6,700. A little bit tough on him. Now he comes back to the non-winners of 3,000. And this is non-winners of 3,000. So you see James coming on the outside with him, and I thought it was a good effort for James. You don't often see James drive him very much. I think he's got a certain style that he likes to race. Don't overdo it, but he'll give you a big kind of a move. And I thought James adjusted well. He had a start last week, spent a lot of time on the outside, up a class. Now he comes back down into this class, picks up James McDonald. I just think a lot to like. And I like the fact that James is kind of sticking close to this guy. So he's going to be my play in here. What about you? Where'd you go?
I went to the 5-horse Kingston Panic. Good draw to work with. I think this is a much softer spot for him. I just feel like, it's goal time for him. I think this is the perfect spot for him to try and get back into the winner's circle and maybe build some confidence. He hasn't hit the board so far this year, but I think this is a group that is going to be much more to his liking. I do agree, beaching Lindy, though, in a much easier spot here tonight. You have good draw to work with. He should be able to map out a trip, and there's going to be speed to chase in this field for sure.
I agree, too.
Yeah.
I agree with that as well, And Better of the West, another one that I think could come up with a big effort.
We've seen some good efforts from this guy. He's just, again, winless in 13 tries this year, and some of those trips have been good, some of them not so much. Took a little bit, took him a little bit of time to get in gear last time out. I know the line looks great, but you watch visually, Bobby was trying to get him started, and he responded halfway down the lane, but it was too little too late in that spot. So, all right, that's how we see some of those races during this 13 pack, and of course, we kick off the card with a $75,000 guaranteed early pick 5. Randy, now did you submit any pick 5?
I'm playing whatever you submitted.
Okay, well, we're going to have to do some live handicapping and work on the fly here. All right, well, we're going to look at, we touched on some of these races early on, Randy. I went 3 deep in race number 1, Uncle Shank, and I did use, Lamborghini Lou and PL Aussie. I mean, three logicals, but I do think all 3 are main contenders.
You got
here.
my top 3.
And then race number 2, I said he's my boomer bust. You got either you're on board or you're not. That's going to be Oiolo in the second race as a stone cold single.
Take a stand, John?
Yeah, you have to take a stand. I'm fully aware Quebec Hanover's capable and could work out a trip, but I do think Oiolo's got a bit more gears. As we touched on earlier. Race number 3, I found this race to be a little bit tricky. I went to the 4 outside horses, Major Fernco, Dirty Little Piglet, Beastonian, Head Honcho. Some good efforts by many of these rivals last time out. Big upset winner for Major Fernco. I'm going to go back to him again. He had more gold. He had a lot of gold to fend off a horse like Head Honcho, who, most horses from the outside with that trip might have been into gear. Although he did have to do a little bit of work early on. Race 4, tough race, Randy. I did go to Penteller here. I went to my friend Jose in Mars Hill. Nacy, I think he's a big threat here. I just opted to leave him off. The string of seconds is a little bit of a concern, but I tell you what, wouldn't shock me if he won this race whatsoever. And race 5, I'm going to go all in on Blue Hunt. I think he's a repeat threat here in this spot. I thought it was a good effort last time out, but this is a really tough field. You could go so many different ways here, but I just figured, you know what, I'll go for him as my repeat threat and hope with this post that he can double up again.
Well, it's a well played out ticket, my friend, and I'm pretty well got a lot of the same picks as you, you know. So the only time that we do a little bit of different is in race number 3. You're using 4, 5, 6, 7. I threw Army Captain Hanover in there. I think that he can come up with a big one. Nice little drop back down for him.
Yeah, just needs wasn't really didn't look as engaged going to the gate last time for Trevor whatsoever. Great effort 2 back. We saw the replay there when you showed the.
I think it was a bit of a bounce.
Yeah, probably. So, he's got
now
a good
drop. Coming down in class.
And he can put forth another good effort. All right, those are our thoughts in the early pick 5. Let's see what we'll go over some stats. We talked about some hot trainers and hot drivers. Let's see if any of these guys show up on our page. And there you go, leading the way, Jody Jamieson, 11 wins on the week, win percentage of 29.7. I tell you one thing, we've seen a nice group of sophomores. by the Carl Jamieson outfit as well. And they put forth some good efforts over the weekend, didn't they?
They not only did they put out some really big efforts too, a lot of them were coming out of some bad post positions and still got the job done.
Out of ice?
Yeah, so when they start to get better post positions, look out then.
Yeah, let's see.
He's loaded for bear this year, Mr. Carl.
He really is. So curious to see how they're going to perform on the in the final on the weekend. James McDonald, always just a regular face on this list. 11 wins as well, a lower win percentage. Louis Waugh with 8 wins, and Bob McClure also with 8 wins. So we've got a couple guys tied with wins, but how about Louis Waugh and Luke Blais? They've been a pretty good tandem. We've seen them do some pretty good things throughout the week. And Bob McClure keeping up with that hot streak, Randy. He's pretty hot as of late.
He is.
And we touched on Jody Jamieson and Carl Jamieson combo, and he is here number 1, leading the way in wins and win percentage for the week. And again, really nice job, and I think he's got plenty to be excited for going this weekend and beyond.
It is, yeah, for sure. And then we got a log jam in for second. Everybody has 3 wins there, but Jody is leading the earnings in there. $73,000 put away in with her 3 wins. So I mean, we got some good racing going on right now. And Kyle Fellows looks like he's starting to warm up a little bit too. He's been becoming a regular up on this board, and hopefully he carries that over to Sweden.
Yeah, that's
any chance you going to Sweden?
No, unfortunately not.
You didn't get your name in there?
No, couldn't get any vacation time off. I used up too much already. All right, we're going to look over at some other stuff. We're going to look at the preferred here tonight, Randy, because I do think that this is a pretty good group. We touched on it a little bit earlier on when we were going over the races, but I tell you, this is a really nice field. I think it's worth talking about yet again. Tell you what, we touched on Oiolo. We touched on him enough. What about Quebec Hanover? He's the morning line favorite at 2-1. I'm not sure he's going to go off as the favorite, but we get a driver change. He jumped it off last time out. You have to expect he's going to be going forward, and if so, he's a main contender, isn't he?
Yeah, I would have to think so. He doesn't usually jump it off. You know what I mean? He does show one down on the bottom, but for the most part, he does stay pretty. He stays at it, keeps his focus going. And like I said, picking up Louis Waugh, Louis has drove him many, many times. So, I mean, it's not going to be any kind of a big thing there. I got him in for second. I think Top Mass is really starting to kind of come around. I got him in for third, but I don't look at Locatelli as a win candidate. I threw him in for fourth, and the biggest reason why is I've never seen this horse look any better than he does right now. I think Nat Day has done an incredible job with this horse. I love the way that he looks out there. I think that Phil gets along amazingly well with him. He didn't over-race him in his last start. That means there's going to be lots of energy in here. If a couple of these other ones make breaks, Osceola made a break in his last. Quebec Hanover made a break in his last. If they make breaks, who comes into the picture? Locatelli. Yeah. So I'm going to use him as part of this. It's
funny. On the lines here at this level as of late, they don't look super competitive here at the preferred level.
Yes.
He's obviously a notch below some of these ones. I tell you what, though, visually, he's moving well on the end of it, though. I mean, just a little bit too much to make up, too much ground to make up in those tries, but he's been racing really well. And I like that you mentioned Top Mast as well. For him to kind of work his way up to the preferred, it's pretty good job by Team Gino and Desiree Jones there. They great job by Desiree getting this guy in tip-top shape, and to be at the preferred at this time is a pretty good accomplishment there.
Then I was actually out there when he came on the track to warm up as well. Oh, you could comb your hair in him, John. He looks like a shiny mirror.
I really liked the way when he came out for his 2-year-old debut. He was he caught my eye right away. Obviously wasn't able to become maybe one of the top 2-year-olds there, but horse, look at him now, aged horse, and he's able to race here at a preferred 2 level. All right, we touched on some star caliber horses earlier on the card. We mentioned a few of them as well, but let's go back to the weekend and touch on some of these SBOA eliminations, Randy. And, obviously I was kind of keeping track from my phone and watching some replays from the airport. I was so impressed with so many horses. And how about this effort from Green Glider? He caught up with Greg Blanchard. Scott McEnany did after the race and talked about the change in a lighter shoe and whatnot. And I tell you one thing, she was absolutely floating and flying out there.
Oh, was she, eh? I mean, this move right here. Yeah. Right here. I mean, she absolutely annihilates them. Yeah. On the end of it, and that is about I'm not going to say it was the deepest of the 2 divisions. There's a lot of really nice horses in here, and our returning super final champion, Little Sweet.
Yeah, exactly, Little Sweet. Maybe just needed a start, but I tell you, Exquisite Taste, a trouble trip there too. I thought she had some go on the end of it. We're going to look at the other division.
This to me is a little deeper.
It was deeper. I really wanted to see how Bright Green wanted to finish off that mile. She looked pretty tight on Mona Lishi's helmet there. I know that she did come on pretty quick. Mona Lishi did, but Blake did say maybe she looked a little flat. It looked like that to me. What do you think, though?
I honestly didn't think that she looked flat. I know that I've heard that. I know down here, but my thing is this: is that I really look at this as the way deeper bunch, and she was so much the best of the rest of them in that race.
Yeah.
I think that she's going to respond even more her next race. It's going to make her that much better. And these guys, if they can't catch her now, they're not going to catch her. The more she races, the better she's going to get.
I tell you one thing that we saw last year, though, when she was on the lead, sometimes she did start to let up a little bit. So when we saw her racing off a helmet, she was motoring on home. But when you're 1 to 5, 1 to 9, and you're the quote unquote best in the division, sometimes things you got to be raced a certain way. We talked about Luke Blais. How about this guy, Day, putting it together in this SBOA elimination, Randy?
You know, John, I had Rising Interest up on top, took a ton of support, 3 to 2. I thought I was looking good, and then he made a dash for a hot dog. But yeah, Louis had good movement on the end of it. Dougie moving forward on the end of it. Again, I like the way that these race, but I don't necessarily put this as the toughest division of the two.
Yeah, and you know what? We're still missing You Got It Camp, who we haven't seen, right? So far this year. But let's look at this race, though, because this was a nice win by Look At Me Go Amigo, who converts off a pocket trip. But it looks to me like Get the Green puts in a little bit of a step here. And there you go. And you can see James kind of checks him there a little bit. Does a good job keeping him together. And I'm not sure whether if he stays trotting or doesn't put in that step, maybe he's a winner. You tell me. But nevertheless, a great effort by Louis.
A really great effort by James's horse, but I think we're looking at two different horses here. You know what I mean? I think we're looking at a real nice one that James has. I think we're looking at something that's a little bit bigger and you know, more robust, bigger gait, lot to do with him. I think that this horse could come out to be a pretty good horse. I mean, let's face it, he raced against the best in North America last year.
Yes, he did. And we had a couple buys straight to the finals on the colt side and the filly pace, both so 3-year-old colt pace and 3-year-old filly pace. Here's a look at the field. Post number 6 for Chantilly. Now, I did catch up with trainer Nick Galucci coming on my way down here, and he did say Chantilly's scoped perfect. She's good to go for Saturday night. I know she was scratched sick out of that most recent qualifier. It's going to be all systems go this Saturday night.
I don't see anybody in here, if I was in the Chantilly camp, that would give me any problems whatsoever. I think Perfectly Chic's going to come up with a big effort. Don't see her at Chantilly's level, though.
And here we are going to see the 3-year-old filly Trot here. And Green Glider, great draw to work with here as well. And Mona Lisa draws post number 3. You know, I'm curious to see when I have to make my picks for this weekend. I'm not so sure who I'm going to go with between Mona Lisa and Green Glider because, you know, if Green Glider's on her back, I don't know if she's going to be able to fend her off if she puts forth a similar effort like last week. But we know that Mona Lisa should take a step forward.
Completely agree with you, but here's a question for you. What happens if Mona Lisa ends up on Green Glider's back?
There you go. That's going to be an interesting chess match to see.
Yeah.
This is a pretty nice field of a 3-year-old colt pacers here. Set shot, a nice effort there in victory. I tell you one thing, Randy, you watch, that crack shot, he was second over Chip. I love the way he responded once Dougie pulled the plugs just before the wire. He found a different gear in that. You know, I'm really excited to see what effort he's going to put forth.
I didn't think that Dougie was going to be able to get there, but he did. He raced fantastic. But I'll tell you the one that I was really looking forward to see is I want to see what Boxster Sealster does this year.
We'll see, exactly. It seemed he got a little bit tired later in the season.
I think
he went some big miles early on, and we saw him kind of get a little bit tired, but I'm curious to see maybe.
I'm not 100% sure if he was maybe not a little bit too big as a 2-year-old. I think he's going to, you know, that size is really going to come into play this year. Last year, maybe just a little too thick for a 2-year-old.
And we're going to look at the Trot here. And you mentioned Look At Me Go Amigo. What a draw he gets to work with here tonight. I mean, you know, he's pretty handy. We know that he's took on Grand Circuit Company. Artful Dodger outside post. I couldn't tell if he had no room or just didn't have much on the end of it. That was tough for me to tell.
I didn't think quite as much, but tell me your thoughts on Galen Urso. I thought it was a good one.
You got to love that effort. I know you and I were talking.
Yeah.
I thought the Meadowlands qualifier was just fair.
Yes.
You know,
that's
just fair.
Why I reached out to you.
Just a trip around the track for me. But you don't. I don't know when he shipped here. I don't know maybe how long. I'm sure he's obviously at McNair's.
Yeah.
I don't know maybe if they got a tightener in him, but I thought that was a perfect effort going into the SBOA final, and we know that he's a contender when he's on his game.
Exactly. He had the rail to deal with. I thought Dougie did a great job bringing him in there.
Great job. So it's going to be an action-packed weekend, but I'll tell you, we've got some stars on the racetrack this weekend and a lot of good competition. How about you come on down and watch not only the stars, but stay for a little bit of firework action. Last year, I tell you, I was working at the Meadowlands last year, and I was looking at the crowd, pictures, and on the TV. Fortunately, I won't be here in person again, Randy, but this is a night that I always enjoyed growing up as a kid. I would come down with my dad every single year And I'm kind of bummed I got to miss it yet again. But I tell you one thing, this is a great time to come and put our sport on display and stay for some great extracurriculars as well.
That's the whole thing, and me and Greg have talked about it a bit, and that, and people have to realize, hey, John, like you said, you've been going to this for years. I've been going to this since they've had it going. There's no place that puts on a better firework display than this place. So I'm telling you, I know I've said it, but if you like fireworks, it doesn't matter where you are. Please come to Mohawk on Saturday, May 17th, because you'll never experience better fireworks no matter where you go.
I remember the first year when me, you, and Elisa worked together, and we went right outside the studio. We watched all the fireworks show. We had a group of people, just a great time, and there's nothing negative to say. You get a crowd of people, a lot of people, and they all stay. Everybody stays throughout the whole night. There's no worrying about what time the races are going to finish. None of that. They all stay for the entire action, and there's not a empty seat in the house by the time the show comes on. And I tell you one thing, the drivers, they bring their kids and whatnot, and everybody enjoys it. It really is a great night.
Don't you love the expression on the kids' faces?
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah. All right. Well, that's enough. Lots to look forward to, Randy. We could talk about it all night, but we've got to take care of business here tonight. And plays of the night, we're going to start off with the Hall of Famer to kick things off.
Going to start it off in race number 1. Going to be PL Aussie right in the first race, John. It's either going to be a good night or a bad night. He's going to be my all-in. Beat the favorite. It's going to be Nazy. I agree with you. I think he's sitting on a big effort after all those good seconds. Worth a look. Crystal Baller from the inside. And Waple's Watch is going to be reigning captain, and I agree with John on that. I more or less went with the decision of the driver.
All right, and there's a look at, I love all those selections. I think everyone's got a big shot there. And there's my plays of the night here. Boomer Bust, Oiolo, we touched on that earlier. Repeat threat, Blue Hunt. I love the draw that he gets to work with. He's tough when he's on the lead. So, if Travis can get him there, maybe he's going to be able to fend off some horses. My value play is going to be Mastercraft. We've seen some sneaky good efforts from this guy in some of those, in that graduate series. Good draw to work with. Maybe he can pop up with a good effort. I'm going to go all in with Kingston Panic. Like I said, I think this is a perfect spot to get his confidence back. I'm willing to back him as an all-in player there. So a lot of 4s and 5s. Good draws to work with there. I can't really complain.
You know what that means? That if anybody wants to play your all-in, they got to stick around for race 13.
There you go. See? That's a good teaser. I should have thought of that. All right.